Hi, I'm Peter Tragos, host of the Lawyer You Know podcast and YouTube channel. The saying goes, everyone hates lawyers until you need one. Well, I'm here when you need one to answer your questions and give you insight that you didn't know you needed. Along with my partners, Pete Sardis, the professor, who has a finance and business background, and George Tragos, my dad and the consigliere, a criminal defense giant, we can answer any questions you have. What's up, everybody? We're back. It hasn't been too long here, but we are just about done with our office work for today. I've got a couple meetings after this video, but this one's going to be fun. I expect it to be a bit of a smaller group, members only for the questions. And we're going to go through the top 10 legal movies just in one lawyer's opinion. So I'm going to go through the list 10 to 1. I'm going to explain kind of what I like about the movie, what I can learn from the movie, and what lay people and non-lawyers can learn while watching these movies, and what I think sticks out as potentially most realistic, least realistic. And when we get to the top 5, I'm a big movie quotes guy. And when we get to the top 5, I'm going to give my favorite quote or little part of the movie that I remember. Some have a lot more to pick from than others, so it's going to be really fun. We also have a ton of new members signing up right now, which is really fun. And as I go throughout these descriptions and from 10 to 1, we are going to flash the new members' names across the bottom of the screen so everybody can get their recognition on the screen for joining here for this members only chat. And then we are also going to list, I don't want to spoil the list yet, but after the video is over, we're going to post 10 to 1 on the community page and the membership page for you guys to vote which one you like the best. And we can see out of the members how they rank 1 to 10. And I'm a big sports guy. I listen to a lot of sports podcasts. And as is so often with any top 10 list, I hope you tear it apart. I hope you tell me where it's wrong. I hope you tell me where it's right. Let me know. I'm sure I'm missing movies. There were so many to pick from. But I did look at a few lists to be like, yeah, I like this one more than others. And there are some themes to them. I want to make sure there were some law school movies, some jury movies, some trial movies. But we are going to start with number 10, which is actually a cheat, and it's a combo of 2 movies. And here are the jury movies, okay? Number 10, 12 Angry Men, which I hadn't seen until recently when people in this very chat recommended and said I had to watch, and Runaway Jury. And the reason I picked these 2 movies to kind of tie for number 10 is neither is really my favorite movie to watch or a rewatchable movie, but I thought it's very cool and interesting to watch the jury process. And it is actually very realistic that there are all these, all this data out there that, how jurors are picked and who's a leader and who's a follower and who thinks this and who thinks that based on what their job is and all this stuff, right? And you see what a juror who is a leader who will not have their mind changed, like the one juror who flipped everybody's minds, and how some of the other jurors were strong personalities and weak personalities and could be led and not led. And it's scary to see what can actually happen in a jury deliberation. And then Runaway Jury, which I've referenced talking about juror number 15 or whatever from Johnny Depp as being the only reason Amber Heard would actually have a legitimate claim at a mistrial is if this was a runaway jury. And he was a plant against Amber Heard, who was put on that jury and made sure he was going to be on that jury so that Amber Heard could lose and Johnny Depp could win. And that's what Runaway Jury is about. Jurors making sure, and there's going to be some spoiler alerts on here, just FYI to everybody. But if you actually, and it can happen. Like you can answer all the questions the right way to make sure you get on a jury because you want to be against a tobacco company or because you want to be against a car insurance company or because you want to be against, somebody that's suing somebody else because you got sued and screwed one time in court. So this stuff can happen where people force their way onto the jury and make sure they get the result they want. So that's kind of a combination for number 10. Number 9, Paper Chase. Very interesting, old school, cool to watch. One of my dad's favorite legal movies, so I had to get it on here. It's pretty depressing how it depicts law school, but I think it's important to watch these movies about law school and see how difficult and stressful it can be. I do think that professors care a little bit more about the mental health of students than they did back then, but it is a very good depiction of the stresses of law school. It's an older movie, but it is cool. There's a mix of old and new in here. Number 8, a newer movie. Number 8 is Just Mercy. So I don't know how many of you guys have seen Just Mercy, but this is a movie that highlights fighting for justice. I love Michael B. Jordan generally, all the way back to his Friday Night Lights days. And to me, it was so cool to watch him play this role. And I really love this movie. A lot of cool courtroom scenes, a lot of it to show how difficult it is to get wrongful convictions overturned, what that process is like, how impossible it is, how much time and effort and energy, and there's no money in it most of the time, and it's just blood, sweat, and tears basically. And I think this was a great depiction of that, a great depiction of how a lawyer can take on this kind of case. And then, of course, it has a great ending. I won't spoil it all the way, but it has a great ending. And I love, love, love that movie. Number 7. And this one could have gotten higher potentially. And talk about quotes. I couldn't have said most of the quotes that automatically pop in my head for this movie. It is absolutely hilarious. But most of the quotes are inappropriate, especially the ones that are right at the tip of your tongue. And that is Jim Carrey's Liar, Liar, coming in at number 6. I'm sorry, at number 7 here. And it is so hilarious. We will put a list. Rachel, why don't you post in the chat like number 10, number 9 as I say them, or I guess I could. Number 10 was, well, that's probably going to be boring for you now. If Rachel, if you can, number 10 was 12 Angry Men and Runaway Jury. 9 was Paper Chase. 8 was Just Mercy, and 7 is Liar, Liar. Or if anybody wants to post in the chat so people can keep up. So Liar, Liar, hilarious. I think that it's a good pun because people do think lawyers lie all the time. I love the theme and the message of the movie that the truth will set you free, and telling the truth is the best way to win a case. And even though it was kind of sad that he won the case at the end and he realized maybe he did the wrong thing by winning the case, because it seemed like the dad was a great dad and the mom didn't really care about the kids but cared about the money, but he won by using the truth. And sometimes I think there is that type of conflict as a lawyer and doing your job, and we'll see that. And I enjoy watching that kind of conflict because it happens in real life, and lawyers have to make a lot of decisions based on ethics and based on making decisions for the right reason and doing the best things for their clients. So I do enjoy that kind of internal conflict, but it was, absolutely hilarious to me. Liar, Liar. I think it is I think it's the funniest legal movie. There's another one on the list that's pretty funny, but I'm going to say Liar, Liar is purely the funniest legal movie on this list. All right, number 6. And this one I originally had higher, and I bounced it down because I literally couldn't think of a single quote that I remember from the movie. And I'm such a big quotes guy that, honestly, that dropped this one out of the top 5. And it is a Tom Cruise movie. Can any of you guess it? It is a great lesson in young lawyer decision-making and how young lawyers should and could and can make decisions. But it is probably not the one that most of you are putting in the chat right now, the Tom Cruise movie that you're guessing. It is instead Tom Cruise's second best legal movie, The Firm. So The Firm, Tom Cruise picks his job when he is Toots got it. He picks a job with this big prestigious firm, lots of money, get the car, get the bonus, talk to the old, partners and, rub elbows with all the rich guys. It gets to be a big shot. And turns out it isn't always what it seems. And it was a little too good to be true. And he uncovers this big conspiracy and issue with the firm. But very cool. Gives you a good depiction of what some big firms are like and what the pressures are like and what it's like to be a hotshot law student and making job decisions and bonuses and what they throw at you. And sometimes they have to entice you because the job is not that good. So to me, very cool movie. The Firm, number 6. But let's get to the top 5. Let's get to some quotes. Let's have some fun here. So number 5, some people are going to make fun of me for this. Some people may agree. But the number 5 movie on this list, and I think a lot goes into it. To be a good movie, is more than just what's true and what's legal about it and the legalese used and what the courtroom scenes are like. But to me, if you have a trilogy, which I think it has, if you have iconic actors in it and iconic characters in it, iconic scenes, I think that's really important, right? And that's going into my rankings. These are just my rankings, right? And my rankings, I can do whatever I want with. And so to me, all of that goes into play. I also love movies about law school. I think it was a really cool time in my life, and there's a lot to work with there, a lot of content to work with. That's really cool. And I think it shined a light on something that is super legit, and that is diversity in law schools. Law schools like diversity. And this person potentially got into Harvard Law School because she was a little different than the rest of their students. And while it's not what we think of diversity today and what they focus on as far as diversity goes with today, diversity of thought, diversity of background is really important and is beneficial in just about every situation I can think of. And yes, everybody has guessed it at this point in the chat. It's Legally Blonde. Legally Blonde, number 5 on the list. And again, so many quotables from Legally Blonde. But my favorite is, of course, when Warner says to Elle, "You got into Harvard?" And she says, "What? Like it's hard?" And that's the best. I have a lot of friends actually that went to, not a lot. I have like 4 or 5 friends that went to Harvard Law School, and it's funny. And it's a good movie. It's a funny movie. And there are some cool parts, but I actually do like the courtroom parts and the courtroom scenes. The cross-examination is great. And when you have a lawyer, what's cool, and what this movie does actually show is if you're an expert on a topic, or if you're a lawyer and you take a case, you can become an expert on the topic of that case. I had, unfortunately, a drowning case, and my client drowned at a theme park. And so I became an expert on all of the lifeguard rules, all the pool safety rules, and it's now helped me in other cases, but it helps when you're asking questions when you become an expert. And Elle happened to be an expert on perms, which she used to prove her case and prove her client was not guilty, which is very cool. Becoming, now that we're in the top 5, throw your favorite quotes from these movies in the chat too. That'll be fun. We'll do that as well. Don't stomp your last season Prada shoes at me, honey, is also one of my favorites. And she asks Warner, and Warner says, or she's like, "What kind of shoes are these?" He's like, "Brown ones" or something. That was funny. So many great quotables, but some very unrealistic parts, right? As a law student, you wouldn't be able to just take over a case and ask questions in court. And if your senior partner got booted off the case, some second-year law student wouldn't be able to sit first chair. That doesn't happen regardless of what your client wants to do. Now, there are situations where law students, like I was an extern at the state attorney's office, and I did try cases as a student. A jury trial, picking a jury, opening, closing, cross, direct, all of that while a law student. But you can only do that under the supervision, I should say in Florida, maybe it is different in California, but under the supervision, or was it in Boston? Under the supervision of the state. So like public defenders and state attorneys, attorney general's office, you can do that. But usually not in private cases, private defense cases like in Legally Blonde. So yes, some very unrealistic parts, but the big shot partner hitting on the attractive female associate, probably not that unrealistic. I don't have any experience with that, so I can't say for sure, but I think there were some realistic parts to that movie, even though there was, of course, some very unrealistic parts. All right, number 4. So this has some similar lessons with a movie higher up on the list, so I'm not going to dig into them too much, but this movie explains them with just a little more swag, right? And potentially the coolest lawyer from any movie is in this movie, and it is The Lincoln Lawyer, which I thought was a really cool movie. It was a fun movie about how certain criminal defense lawyers act, cash payments, doing things from their cars, making deals, showing up to the jail to talk to your clients. Very realistic parts in it, even though, of course, some unrealistic parts as well. And I'm going to save some of the similar client issues you may have, like he had in The Lincoln Lawyer, with another movie above. But I want to give you my favorite little snip from this movie. Eddie says, "Counselor," and Mick Haller, who's the Lincoln Lawyer, says, "Eddie, we had a deal. Either you pay me or you go with the public defender." And Eddie says, "How about $5,000?" And the Lincoln lawyer says 10. And so he's not negotiating, right? They've already negotiated the deal, and he hands him an envelope, and he just kind of feels the envelope and looks down at it. And he said, and Eddie goes, "Aren't you going to count it?" And the Lincoln lawyer says, "I just did." Lawyers are famous for just smelling money or knowing when money shows up at the door. Criminal lawyers like this are famous for, you don't pay me, I'm out of here. Mr. Green didn't show up. I've heard criminal lawyers say in open court for why they want to withdraw from a case. So that was kind of just like a funny little scene there. And clients trying to negotiate last second with the lawyer because Eddie had the $10,000, but he still tried to get it done for $5,000 before the lawyer said no. All right. Next up, number 3. And I see some questions coming in about Lincoln Lawyer and other movies, and I'm going to answer all of them at the end. Number 3, one of the other funniest, this is the second funniest movie on this list, but it had a lot of serious parts as well. Great acting, really fun. And one of the lessons to be learned in this movie was practicing in different jurisdictions. This is very legitimate how New York is very different from Alabama, is very different from Florida, very different from Texas, very different from Iowa, very different from California. And when you practice in different jurisdictions, judges have their rules and you have to play by their rules. And this movie, number 3 on the list, is My Cousin Vinny. Yes, Mo. And I saw you guys mentioning it before. So many quotes. And as you notice in my rankings, quotables bumps you up big time. And here is kind of an illustration of what I was talking about in one of my favorite parts. Vinny Gambini, my clients, and judge says, "What are you wearing?" Vinny Gambini says, "Huh?" Judge says, "What are you wearing?" Vinny Gambini, he's got his leather jacket on. He goes, "I'm wearing clothes." And Vinny says, "I don't get the question." And the judge says, "When you come into my court looking like you do, you not only insult me, but you insult the integrity of this court." Vinny says, I'm sorry, sir, but this is how I dress. And the judge says, "Fine, I'll let you off this one time. The next time you appear in my court, you will look lawyerly. And I mean, you comb your hair and you wear a suit and tie. And that suit better be made out of some sort of cloth. You understand me?" And he says, "Yes, fine, judge." So funny. And then when he says the 2 Utes, and he shows up in the lady's suit because he spilled something on his suit, and he's like, "There's no 1-hour dry cleaners, and I know how much you don't like my leather jacket." So all of that was funny. Very cool part of the movie as well, dealing with expert witnesses and how expert witnesses can be used to prove a case. And like Marissa Tomei in this case, and how expert witnesses are not always experts based on education, but experience can absolutely qualify you to be a very good expert. And when we watch the Johnny Depp trial together and some other trials, and we are comparing all these experts, we can't forget that experience and the ability to explain it to the jury can sometimes trump education. And that is something that is very important that you can absolutely learn from this movie, watching it, because that is how it works in real life as well. And I always like to pick those things out because it makes it very fun. A lot of you have already mentioned my number 1 movie in the chat. But my number 2 movie is a little more under the radar, and I actually just saw it mentioned not too long ago. But it is a movie that shows you sometimes the conflict of believing your client, fighting for your client, and later finding out your client lied to you and what you do about that. Doing everything you can to help someone you think deserves it. And I think this is a good kind of thing with Amber Heard, right? And people are like, "Would you ever represent her?" And I said, if she came in my office and told me the story and I believed it, then yes. Sometimes you don't know all the other parts. Sometimes, you knew or should have known, that standard. I don't know if you guys have heard that standard in the law, but if you knew or should have known, then, maybe you shouldn't have represented them. But in this case, I absolutely believe that the lawyer believed his client until he didn't. And this is, to me, the best acting job, the best individual acting job of anybody on this list. And it wasn't the lawyer, it was the client. This movie, number 2 on my list, is Primal Fear. Another way my rankings go is, yes, Azam got it. Another way my rankings go is if it's on and I have to rewatch it, that makes it high on my rankings. And this one's up there for that because I always want to see the part where, and Edward Norton, by the way, that's the single best acting performance of all these movies, in my opinion. I'm not a professional actor. But amazing when he has those blackouts and then he comes to, and you know, it's really amazing, his acting in that movie. And I mean, this scene gives me chills to think about. So Roy says, Mr. Vale, and Martin Vale, the lawyer, Richard Gere, says, yeah. Roy says, stammering, because Roy was the other personality. Will you tell Miss Venable I'm sorry? Tell her I hope her neck is okay. Martin Vale says, yeah, I will. Martin Vale begins walking away and he says, wait, what did you just say? And it clicks. What? Because the whole movie you're trying to figure out, is this legit? Does he actually have these blackouts? Is he faking it? And he wins. And Martin Vale says, what? You just told me a few minutes ago that you didn't remember. You blacked out. You lost time, which is how he called, you know, the monster. It's interesting to compare these movies with real cases. They have these terms that they use in court that the jury can hold on to, like Amber Heard's team tried to do with Monster for Johnny Depp. So you lost time yet again. So how do you know about her neck? And Roy goes, plug your ears because I'm about to clap. Well, good for you, Marty. I was going to let it go at that. You was looking so happy just now. I was thinking, but to tell you the truth, I'm glad you figured it out because I've been dying to tell you. I just didn't know who you'd want to hear it from, you know? Aaron or Roy or Aaron. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret, a sort of attorney-client privilege type of secret. You know what I mean? It don't matter who you hear it from. It's the same story. Brr, that's just so good. It's so good. I love that movie. Courtroom scenes were really cool. We had some insanity defense. I loved that movie. Attorney-client privilege issues. Very, very cool movie. But there can only be one at the top. And this one is by far the most rewatchable. Any point at which I turn it on, I love it. So many quotes I love from it. I'm not going to give the most overused quote of the movie. I'm going to give the part just around that I think is even better. And that is A Few Good Men. Most of you have already guessed it. I have a lot in here that people said was their number one that I didn't even put in. So we'll talk about some of those. But A Few Good Men is my numero uno. There are so many. Yep, Ashley guessed it. A bunch of people did. So many great parts. Like when they go to have the breakfast and, you know, he talks about how people want to kill him from everywhere. And when you talk about Tom Cruise's dad and living in his shadow and how Tom Cruise doesn't really care. He's just kind of just let it go and just let it ride kind of thing. And amazing courtroom scenes, obviously very different because dealing with military law. But very cool to see how a young lawyer kind of comes into his own and how hard you have to work and how you can find things and build a case that you have to try. All of that very cool and very realistic in this case. And here's my favorite part. It's not, you can't handle the truth, but you don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather that you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand the post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to. I mean, just amazing. It's just so good. It's like, who's going to do it? You, Lieutenant Weinberg. I mean, so many good spots. And also a lesson to learn for Tom Cruise's clients. Sometimes when you win, you still lose because they won, right? But they were still dishonorably discharged for doing what they thought was right and following orders and doing the code red. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. I guess somebody said Jack Nicholson was awesome. Maybe I went a little too far saying Ed Norton was the best individual because Jack Nicholson probably was. I'll put them up there. Tom Cruise was pretty amazing in this too. But this is just so good. So many good quotes in the movie. Love A Few Good Men from beginning to end. Best movie, in my opinion. Best legal movie of all time. But let's see what you guys think. And let's get to the questions. Does Legally Blonde have a trilogy? Ahmad said, I think it does. I think it does, but somebody can correct me. IMDb can correct me if I'm wrong. Ashley Harris, can we please take a second to appreciate Barry the Bee's fine courtroom performance in the Bee movie? Fair point. I didn't even consider it. It's a fair point. Bev agrees with me. Best legal movie is A Few Good Men. If you disagree, you can't handle the truth. In lockstep again, Bev. I don't know why I'm surprised. Acantha Rain, Oak Moon. Quick question before you start. Sorry, I missed it. Who would you want to play you in a movie of your career? I'll say the only two-time lawyer on this list, let's say Tom Cruise. He's only about 50 years older than me. I don't know. I have no idea. You guys would be better at figuring that out. Maybe Keanu Reeves. Melanie Casio, please, please, please tell me Kevin Costner's JFK is on your list, please. It is not. I've actually never seen it. So a lot of these movies that a lot of you mentioned, I have seen, and I'll give some breakdowns on. I have not seen this one, though. Mo, I'm watching How to Get Away with Murder, and it's driving me nuts after learning so much from you. I'm like, no, that's not how it would happen. Mo, great job by you. I had to turn it off. I can deal with some, stretching of what happened. This will not be on. We are eventually going to do top 10 legal TV shows, and this will not be on the list. I couldn't get through it. It was too brutal. I just couldn't get through it. Ahmad Waggy, you mentioned this during Lincoln Lawyer. What do I think about the series? Have I seen it? Yes, I've seen it. Cool storyline. I like a good legal show. I struggled with the main actors. I didn't love any of them. As any of you guys have been following the channel, you know how much I love Last Kingdom because I love Uhtred. The Office because I love Michael Scott and Jim and Dwight. Characters really got to pull me in for me to stick with the TV show. I wasn't a big fan of the main characters in that show. Sparrow Light is a new member. Tori Fowl. What really happens when you find out your client really did commit a horrid crime? Can you let the authorities know somehow? What would you honestly do, Peter? Has this happened to you? So can't ever lie on the stand. I've answered this question a bunch of different times, a bunch of different ways. You can't let them lie on the stand. But if it was let's just say Primal Fear, I'll answer it that way. If I find out after the fact, pretty much nothing I can do because it's attorney-client privilege. If it's a continuing fraud upon the court, then you can let the court know. There are different ways to handle it because you can't violate privilege, but you can't continue a fraud on the court. So it has to be handled delicately. I'm never going to let a client lie on the stand. I'll withdraw from the case before that. I'll let the court know if I have to before that. Within the rules, there are ways you have to do it. We've actually presented on this in the ends of court. And if a client tells me he commits a crime, most of the time we're trying to work out a fair deal for the client as far as what the sentence will be. Again, we're not lying. We're not going to say he didn't do it if he said he did it, things like that. So hopefully that answers your question. Ahmad, my top three: 1, And Justice for All; 2, The Rainmaker; and 3, Philadelphia. What do you think? Rainmaker was probably 11 or right there. I actually probably like Rainmaker better than the 2 jury movies. I really like Rainmaker, but I wanted to put the 2 jury movies on there to give a little taste of the jury. And if you guys are going to go watch 10 movies, I would like you to get one that explains kind of what the jury process is like. I do really like Rainmaker, though. Philadelphia, I liked watching it the first time, found it kind of boring at parts, if I'm being honest. Pelican Brief is another one that, was fine, but it was just so much stuff going on. Justice for All, I don't think I've ever seen. Who's in Justice for All? I don't know. I saw somebody just post, that's what she said. It's funny. KS. All right, Ahmad, again. The craziest thing about the movie is that they make the story as unbelievable as possible and that, but never believe it until the end, subconsciously. Yes. It's wild. I assume you're talking about Primal Fear, I think, at this point. Really, really great movie. Beverly Alford. Trivia. My Texas Aggies, Corps of Cadets, portrayed the U.S. Marine Corps silent drill platoon during the opening scene of A Few Good Men military drama. Wow, that's cool. That's really cool. Bev bringing the trivia. Ahmad Waggy. I'm surprised you didn't mention Rainmaker. Do you not handle similar cases as that? I really liked Rainmaker. I really did like Rainmaker. I did. I've only seen it maybe once all the way through and then parts of it before. So that's another reason. What was the one? I actually kind of enjoyed the one with Mark Ruffalo dealing with the water thing, and Aaron Brockovich. I like that one too. There's a lot that I really liked. A lot that it's hard to make a top 10 list. Sue, a movie where it's just Dwight Schrute solving a crime. That would be funny. Johnny's Girl is a new member. Pelican Brief, somebody else said. A Time to Kill and To Kill a Mockingbird. I saw a lot of people on here. They were fine. Not my favorites to sit through. I thought they were good, though. I did think they were good, yes. Ryan Gallo loves Just Mercy. Top 20, Sparrow Light said. Yeah, there were a lot of good ones that didn't make it on the list. So that's always going to happen when you make a top 10 list. Tori File says you should definitely do TV shows. We are, and we're going to do it as a members only chat again when we do TV shows. So this will be kind of the fun, relaxed stuff where we'll do some members only chats once in a while. Ooh, I'd be curious about a bottom 10 list. That'd be much harder just because I don't know all the movies across. I saw a bunch of people saying Devil's Advocate. Didn't like it at all. Wasn't for me at all. Mod Waggy, Al Pacino, and Justice for All. A pure legal movie. It's really the best legal movie ever made from beginning to end. You have to see it. I don't think I've seen it. If you say it's number one on your list, I have to see it. I have to see it. Jill's Joys, what are your top three of any movie? That's much harder. I'll tell you some random ones that I really like that is not on most people's list is Four Brothers with Mark Wahlberg. I'm a big Mark Wahlberg guy. Snake Eyes with Nick Cage, I love. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure. And then one that I think legit could be on my top three is oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Oh, this is so embarrassing. It's like literally one of my favorite movies with Bodhi and Johnny Utah. Point Break. Wow. Point Break is one of my literal favorite movies of all time. My wife always makes fun of me and says like Dirty Cops is one of my favorite things to watch. Like dirty cop movies, not dirty like crude, but dirty like, the cop that actually is in on the drug dealer stealing money or doing something wrong. So I do love those kind of movies. But yeah, those are kind of out there, not the common ones. They're probably not like the best like made movies in the world or the best acting, but I love Four Brothers and Point Break. Those are like always on my outlandish kind of lists that if I'm like, what's a random, I am an Bodhi, it's over. I am an FBI agent. Johnny Utah, only guy ever to get a football scholarship to law school. If you watch it, it's hilarious. I guess that could be a legal movie, right? Maybe that's number one on my list. Departed was good. Yeah, I love Departed. But again, that's one that's critically acclaimed, right? That's what they call it. But yeah, Jill's Joys, if you want to check them out, there's some language and violence in all of them. But very, very fun movies, very cool movies. John Himes, I watched the new one, wasn't good. But the original one, of course, I'm talking about the original one with Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves. Absolutely. I don't even consider the other one. Are you familiar with the quote, "You're out of order. This whole court is out of order"? That's from Justice for All. Yeah, I have heard that, but I got to watch it because I've definitely never seen it. Training Day was cool. Yeah, I assume you're talking about just normal movies. We Three Kings, I've never seen, Mo. Interesting. I do love that. I like the military kind of movies too, so I'll have to check that out. Leah said Denzel Washington as a dirty cop. Training Day, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, that's like really dirty cop. It's like King Kong of the dirty cops, right? All right, about 5 more minutes and we'll wrap this up. Appreciate all you guys jumping and joining. This was really, really fun. I'm glad we did it. There's way more people here than I was expecting like 100 people to be here to talk through it. So I'm glad we got to do this. We are going to post my top 10 on the members community page. So go vote for what your favorite is out of the top 10. I think a lot of you are going to agree with me. And then post in the comments the one movie I missed. I know which one Ahmad Waggy's is going to be. And I've got 2 more movies on my list now, We Three Kings and Justice for All. Azam, I'm sorry. If you haven't watched Sleepers, you must. I have not. There's a small part in Court that I love so much. I have not seen Sleepers, Azam, so I have to add that to the list as well. Kate said I got it first with an eye roll. Not sure which one you're talking about, but I'll recognize you here. Yes, this was definitely fun. You guys are awesome. So I appreciate everybody jumping in here for another last minute live. That's definitely what they should be called because that's how I do them. You guys are the best. Honestly, you are. It's so much fun. So Kanta said, Legally Blonde and The Firm are her favorites. You got to pick one. Go vote on the member community page. You got to pick one. And Lisa, glad to have you here. Appreciate you. Yeah, Jills, everybody, put these movies on your list. Most of them are on Netflix or Amazon or whatever. Yes, John Himes. You know the drill, everybody. Like the video on your way out. We're done here. Hope everybody has a great night. Until next time, I'm out of here.